Right, everybody, good news. The proof copy of Where Jesus is Buried is back from the printers. Looks absolutely great. Everything fits on the spines, all those things you want to check. You know, so the print's not skewed off. It looks great. The cover, the specs have come out nicely. All the printing looks fine. Having a look through. It's just a tiny tweak. Like, for example, really tiny tweaks needed. Like, you've got a list of books on the inside back cover that are also sold, and this should be a facing page. Should be there, so you get a nice spread. So it looks, but apart from that, it's looking great. I'm really pleased. All the pages are sitting nicely. There's headers in every chapter, so you know where you are in the book. Drawings, the maps, the family trees, all that kind of thing has all come out tidy. Very pleased about it. And there's drawings and diagrams, and let's try and find some pictures. Oh, there's maps. I drew some maps for this. So the maps showing the area, the Middle East during the sort of 1st century, the kingdoms, who was in charge. There's loads of that and some fantastic photos. I've got some here from Yvonne Whiteman, which is the Basilica Prudentia in Rome. So, brilliant. People have really helped with this. And I've got to say a big thank you to the people who've helped with typing in notes. They're mentioned in the acknowledgements there. Patricia putting together the index and checking, Marcel for doing proofreading, it's Bob Morgan's research, Tim, and loads of people. It's been great group effort. It's taken a long time. This is a big book, all right? It's over 300 pages when you include all the indexes and appendices, and it's taken a long time anyway. It's stacks of footnotes, just giving it an idea. The bibliography, that's the books used in the book. That's 2 pages. Just to give you an idea. This is sort of reference materials used by Wilson and Blackett, so it's slightly blurred, doesn't seem to want to quite focus. But you get the idea. And then there's so much information packed in here. The index itself runs into seven pages of double columns. Just the index. So it's a massive body of work. And everyone says, where's your evidence? And that there's tons in here, okay? It's well researched. So I guess I should give a quick, if you're didn't know about this book, it seems extremely controversial, because it is. So we have Where Jesus is Buried after the Holy Family, how the Holy Family came to Wales after the Christian crucifixion, and Britain became the world's first Christian country, by Wilson and Blackett, and I've had the honour and privilege of editing and compiling the book. Alright, and doing the layout and stuff, so it's been a real honour and a privilege. Tribute to the great men there on the inside cover, and it's the first new Wilson and Blackett book for a number of years. So I think it's only fair I give you an idea of. So I'm just opening the book up here. And acknowledgements. Thank you very much. It's been a wonderful. I will just give an idea of what the book's about. Okay, just a short one. I'm going to put some more videos up dealing with some of the topics involved. And if you want to order the book, it's available now on pre-order still until the final print run comes back. You get £5 off, and it's $19.99. Email me or Angela if you're living abroad, or for how we can set this up and do the transaction for you, or just buy through the website. International is a bit difficult on the website. Once the print run comes back, it'll be $24.99, eBay, Amazon, all the usual stuff, okay? So I think the introduction of part 1 is probably a good place to explain the basic concept of this book. I'll tell you what I'll do, let you have a look at the cover while I'm talking as well. So just read the back cover off for you. So the book reveals who Jesus was, the politics of the period, and how he and his supporters fled the persecution of the Roman Empire to seek refuge in Britain. From there it can be seen that the Holy Family and British royal family intermarried to create a dynasty that would be a permanent threat to the later Roman Church and Anglo-Saxon narrative. To avoid persecution, the messages and knowledge were hidden in the ancient records, carved stones, Welsh place names. After decades of research, Wilson and Blackett are finally making their findings public, and the results will truly shock you. The burial places of the royal and holy families are still there and can be visited today, and you get details in the book of where they are. This book strikes at the very core of what the Christian message really is, and where Christianity began before going to Rome, okay? So, I'll just read the introduction, just the first few paragraphs, okay? Not the whole thing, obviously. Part 1, introduction, conflicting faiths. The Roman Church claims that Jesus the Nazarene stood on a street corner in Jerusalem, and then he ascended up to heaven in a cloud of mist. They call this the Ascension, and precisely where Jesus headed for up there in the stratosphere is not defined. The British Apostolic Church believed that Jesus survived the crucifixion and came to Britain, where he finally died and was buried. The Roman Church claims that Western Christianity started in Rome and that Peter was the first pope. The British Apostolic Church claims that Western Christianity began in Britain, was very different from the version portrayed in churches, and that Linus, a member of the British royal family, was the first Bishop of Rome. In fact, Peter never was the Bishop of Rome. I've added that bit. The British Apostolic Church also claims that the Holy Family married into the British royal families and that their descendants carried the holy blood. These rival accounts of history have been at the heart of the hostility towards British identity and suppression of its history, religion and culture that has been going on for almost 2,000 years. One version is correct and the other is incorrect, and the reader is free to support whichever he or she chooses. There you go. And I'll just give a quick idea. I should put a list of the chapters up. I'll just read out the chapter headings, because I'll give you an idea of the structure of the book then. So we have... hope not going to get interrupted. So something about the conflicting faiths. Come in. Chapter 1 is about the Essenes, and it shows how... It shows how we got the Essenes, and what you'll find there is a discussion of the Essenes and how their life practices can be seen in the Bible and would seem to reflect how Jesus lived. Then we got Holy Kings and Queens. This more discussion about the British royal family being holy, claiming to have the holy blood. Celtic fairy tales, a bit of a cheeky title, because it shows how the policy started in the 1700s to make all this British history and Christianity into some sort of Celtic fairy tales. Because, of course, there's no Celts in Britain or Ireland, nothing to do with the Celts. They're in France somewhere. It's one of these myths, that's why it's called fairy tales. So then we got the politics of Judea and Rome. It's a curious thing, because when you're looking at the Bible, you look at the political context. So this gives the history of how they got to the first century, this boiling pot of insurrections and all sorts of things going on. And this is where Wilson and Blackett's genius really comes in, analysing all that. They created it. And then the obvious question, really, who was Jesus? There's a billion Christians in the world. Who was he? The Bible gives him a genealogy, so he might be the son of God, but he's also got a earthly father, if you like, and a family tree. And I think most people know by now that the idea of being a carpenter was just a myth, really, invented in the 300s, I think, or a mistranslation. And he was clearly from a royal family, and this explains that, and who his wife's family was, because he was certain to be married, otherwise it had been really, really commented on, because for that period, not to be married at his age would have been very strange. And then we bring in who his son was. I know this is where it gets difficult for some people to get their heads around it, okay? Chapter 6 is the strange crucifixion, talking about the grisly subject of how crucifixions work and how long they take, and how Jesus is only actually on the cross for a few hours, and how that was arranged. The politics behind it is brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant, explaining how the power struggle between the factions supporting people like that had a choice at the time. Tiberius was exiled on his island, and Sejanus was slowly taking power over Rome. So there's a clever political game people had to play. People like Herod and people like that, and Pilate, and these people you know from the Bible, because you didn't want to upset Sejanus, because he was a ruthless piece of work and he could probably kill you. But if Tiberius suddenly came back because he realised what Sejanus was doing, then he didn't want to upset him either. So he had a real difficult situation. One of the difficult situations was trying to rule Judea, where you had a full-blown insurrection going on, which Jesus was the leader of. And it's so clever how the politics is broken down. That's Will Wilson and Blackett genius at work. explaining how you can't just, you've got to make sure there's still someone there, because if Sejanus comes back, you might want a puppet king to use, so you can't just kill them all. But there again, for Tiberius when he comes back, but there again, to keep the current faction happy, you've got to be seen to be dealing with the insurrection. So how do you find a middle ground? How do you negotiate that? And it suddenly, everything in that whole part of the New Testament makes sense when you read this. It's fantastic. So then you've got then the situation where he's officially, Jesus has been executed, whereas news is going around everyone talking about how he's walking around. He's alive. It says in the Bible he's alive. It says he eats meals and you can touch him and everything. So where the idea of the ghost comes in is a later invention, if you like. It's not what the Bible says. There we go. I'm getting deep water. I can feel the hate coming already. God is love, don't forget. So remember that when you're commenting. And also, Alan Wilson's very, very clear. I've done interviews with him and promoted him, and so have I. This is not an attack on Christianity, okay? It's not an attack on God or beliefs or Jesus or anything. It's what the book is showing, how the version that's been handed down through the church or created by the church in the 4th century is different to the version the British Christians followed. All right? You can choose which one you prefer, but they are different. All right? And that's what the book's basically about. And then you've got how Paul was a bit of a politician and what his family background was, who he was, and how he had to make this sort of compromise situation where, we got a problem here because someone's walking around who shouldn't be, and there's a new faith. So first of all, he got persecuted, as we all know, and was killing Christians, and then he found a better way to infiltrate and become Paul. And his new version of Christianity, which did the political fix. Very interesting. Then the myth of Peter in Rome, this idea that Peter was the first bishop of Rome and he probably never even went there, is bizarre. So we go through all that. Then part 2, events move to Britain. So we got the story of Joseph Aaron and the Theatre in Wales. You might be already familiar with some of that, so it's more brought together. Then chapter 10, Renaissance knowledge, how you can see the old paintings like Poussin, where it tells you this story. It's there. Same as the King's List, chapter 11. Because the academics are going, a load of rubbish, these Welsh king lists. They don't know what they're talking about. Because look at list A, doesn't match list B, doesn't match list C. The first few names match, the last few names less, but the rest is just jumbled, made up rubbish. Well, actually, that was the whole idea, because they're coded. You don't even need, you need to be able to read Welsh, not even, or just translate Welsh. And you can see then, if you're clever like Wilson and Blackett, how they're not, the first few names are there to throw people, because they're real names. The last few names are real names, and the rest is actually words. It's a message, and you can read about the crucifixion, how he's got back, and then you got things like the songs of the graves. You can actually see where he's buried. I know it seems bizarre, doesn't it? But this, it's well backed up, and it was believed. And as Wilson and Blackett would argue, the reason for this permanent persecution of this conflict between Britain and the Roman Church, why it's been a constant threat. It might even have been one of the triggers for provoking Claudius to invade in 54 AD. And then, of course, having one of his daughters marry into the British royal family, presumably to part this holy family. So it's heavy stuff, but it's written in the usual Wilson and Blackett punchy kind of way. So then we got chapter 12, Secrets from the Past, which is some stones and other pieces of evidence to back up this is what happened. And then got cheekily, they're named as 13, Not Concealed Forever, because officially it just shows the mess was made of translations, and the grave of Arthur concealed forever is this famous translation that every Arthurian book always plaster on the cover or near the front, and Wilson Blackett shows a mistranslation, doesn't say that at all. It actually tells you where he's buried. So there'll be more about the burial site of Arthur, King Arthur II, of Glamorgan and Gwent, another book. But this book, chapter 13, does give you the details of how you can work out for yourself where Jesus is buried. And we've been there in our pictures from the site and stuff. So that's pretty good stuff, pretty heavy. As a little epilogue from me, because a lot of this research was done 90s, so it took almost 30 years ago, or 30 plus years ago. But Wilson and Blackett have always considered it to be, I know, amazing when you consider the stick they've had for what they did publish. They considered this to be too controversial. They didn't want to upset Christian friends. They didn't want to upset the church. They wanted to bring themselves. They just want to stick to the history more. But now they've reached the stage where let's do it. Because what's there to lose? I mean, the church needs to realise they're shutting down in droves. They're empty. The reason my local chapel's still going is because you've got the refugees from all the chapels nearby that have already closed. And this one will follow soon, I think. So it's a crisis point. And in here, there's I'm slightly off the track. This isn't beyond the scope of the book. But there's a more plausible explanation for what happened in the Bible. And you're not throwing the Bible out or attacking the Bible. 90% of the quotes in this book are from the Bible. The Bible does tell you it's been twisted since, is what this book argues. And I have to say, it hasn't affected my faith. It's made my faith stronger, actually, because it's a much more plausible story. And I prefer the idea of... I'll just stick to the review of the book for now, okay? Let's just say I think it's good news that Jesus wasn't up there for days and days getting brutally murdered in a horrible way. And that it was something more humane was going on, and he hopefully lived out a long and happy life in Wales long after the crucifixion, and became past the basis of the links, the legends of the Fisher King. So I see it as good news all around. I don't see the need for extreme suffering and death to be the only way an omnipotent God can bring salvation to people. So please don't see it as an attack on Christianity. It's not. It's just an attack on the way Christianity, the story's been changed and twisted. And in here a lot of it explains how that was done, how a lot of fictional books are written in the 1st and 2nd centuries, which have slowly, homilies and all these other books, and how they've slowly become seen as part of the Bible somehow, or a factual part of the story when they're not. So that's an important part of the book I should have mentioned. Then we've got appendices, a guide to go into Nevern, about the bishops at the Council of Arles, which was carried out not long before the Council of Nicaea, and it shows there that the British bishops were there. Christianity was flourishing, and they had the seniority in these meetings. Everyone knew. The Vatican records confirm that British Christianity started about 36, 37 AD, just a few years after crucifixion. And also in the 120s or so, it became the world's first official Christian country. The soldiers started putting the crosses on the shields to show they were the Christian force. Hundreds of years before Rome or anywhere else. So it's a really, really important book. And then we got something, a site report about Annisdinas, which is this sort of holy island off the west coast of Wales, and then a guide to Llanthony Abbey. So there we go. So please get the book. It's available from the website now, as I think I said already, $19.99, £5 discount for the pre-orders. Then this will go back. I will let the printers know. Yep, all looks great. There's just a couple of pages need tweaking, I've noticed. Nothing at all major. And then it should be back from the printers in about a week. So by the week end after next, they will be dispatched. All going well. So look out for that. And if you want your £5 discount, get your order in early. And then once the print runs back, it'll be on YouTube, eBay, and Amazon, all those usual places. And I'll be putting some more YouTube videos up talking about the contents and some of the issues covered. All right, so as I always say, and I particularly want to emphasise it now because I can feel some people get very, very emotional and heated about this subject. They have real problems discussing it politely and rationally and explaining problems with things. We're getting stick for this book for months. We don't even know what's in it yet. So God is love, and I always wish everybody peace at the end of my videos, which in Welsh is Heddwch.